You're learning English. I bet you know this feeling. It's that little knot you get in your stomach, that rush of anxiety just before you have to speak up in a meeting or maybe order something complicated over the phone, even just trying to jump into a fast conversation with friends.
Yeah, that hesitation. Yeah, it's common.
Exactly. You might have spent ages, like months or years, learning grammar, building vocabulary. But then when it's time to actually speak, you just freeze up a bit.
You start worrying, will they get me? Is my pronunciation okay?
Is my accent just getting in the way? You really want to get past that, that halting, self-conscious feeling and just talk confidently. Have that flowing dialogue that opens doors, career, connections, everything.
And that's a completely universal feeling for learners everywhere. The aim isn't about totally wiping out your accent, erasing who you are. It's really about making your communication smoother, clearer.
Effortless, almost.
Yeah, transparent. So the focus is on your message, not on deciphering the words. That clarity, that's the key.
And that is precisely what we're diving into today. We're digging into some really thorough material that maps out how to make that transformation happen.
Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast, English Listening Practice Podcast, topic name is How to Improve Your English Accent and Fluency.
Right. So our goal here isn't just to, read through some guidelines. We're aiming to take all that great information and turn it into one clear, actionable roadmap for you.
Something practical people can use.
Exactly. Whether you're just starting out, maybe wrestling with basic sounds, or you're more advanced and just want to polish your delivery for, say, professional reasons. We're pulling out the core ideas, the cleverest tips, and some really quite inspiring stories of people who've actually done it.
Okay, so we've structured this whole thing to build skills logically, step by step. First up, section 1. We'll define the basics. What's the real difference between accent and fluency?
Crucial distinction.
Then section 2, we get into the nitty-gritty strategies for improving your accent, making it clearer, sculpting intelligibility, as you put it.
Section 3 shifts focus to boosting your fluency. That's the flow, the ease of expression.
Getting the words out smoothly.
And then in section 4, we bring it all together. How do these skills work in tandem? Plus, we'll touch on mindset. And finally, section 5, we'll share some powerful, real-life stories, people who really made that leap.
The stories really bring it home, I think. Show what's possible.
Okay, let's start with this core distinction then, because I know a lot of learners kind of lump accent and fluency together as just speaking well. But they need different kinds of work, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. They definitely overlap when you speak, obviously. But the practice needs to target different things. You have to separate them in your approach.
So how should we think about accent in this context? What is it, really?
Think of your accent as let's say, the unique melody of your speech. Or maybe it's rhythm. It's like a linguistic fingerprint, shaped by your native language.
So the sounds, the intonation patterns.
Exactly. The stress timing, how you naturally produce certain sounds, it all carries over from your first language. Maybe a Russian speaker emphasizing consonants strongly, or an Italian speaker using a really wide pitch range. That's their accent's melody.
And it's not inherently bad.
Not at all. Accents are part of identity. But if that melody consistently makes it hard for listeners to understand you easily, if they're always straining, then refining it becomes important. For clarity, for intelligibility, that's the goal.
That cultural fingerprint idea is really helpful. So if accent is the melody, fluency must be the flow, like a river.
That's a great analogy, yeah. Fluency is all about the effortlessness of your speech. Can you navigate ideas, grab the right vocabulary, use correct grammar, all in real time without constantly stumbling?
Those long pauses where you're searching for the word.
Right. And it's crucial to understand fluency isn't about being 100% grammatically perfect all the time. Nobody is. It's about communicating your ideas smoothly without hitting those mental roadblocks constantly.
So it's less about perfection, more about flow.
Precisely. And a key insight here is that truly fluent speakers generally stop translating in their heads. They start actually thinking in English.
That's a big step.
It's huge, because then pauses become natural for emphasis or just gathering your thoughts, not because you're desperately trying to conjugate a verb or find a word.
Okay, so if the problems feel different, one's about sound, the other's about speed and hesitation, it makes sense that practicing them targets different parts of the brain, or different skills anyway.
Absolutely. Accent work is primarily training your phonetic system. You're retraining the muscles in your mouth, your tongue, your lips.
The mechanics of making sound.
Exactly. And your ability to hear the differences too, your auditory discrimination. Fluency work, on the other hand, is building your syntax and semantics. It's about sentence structure, meaning coherence, how you put ideas together logically.
Different cognitive tasks.
Very different. But what's really interesting, and something emphasized again and again in the material we looked at, is that while the targets are separate, the main way to improve both is through consistent, active, immersive practice.
So just reading grammar books isn't enough.
It helps with knowledge, but it doesn't build the automaticity. You need to use the language, speak it, interact with it to actually rewire those neural pathways for fluent, clear production. Passive study alone just won't cut it for speaking skills.
All right, let's get into the specifics then. Section 2. Refining your accent. You used the word sculpting before, which I like.
Yeah.
It's not about becoming a perfect copy of someone else's accent, right? Like trying to sound exactly like a BBC newsreader or someone from California.
No, definitely not. That's usually unrealistic and often unnecessary. The goal is sculpting for intelligibility. You're chipping away the parts that cause misunderstanding, aiming for clarity so your message comes through easily, not mimicking a specific dialect unless you have a very specific reason to.
So the mission is clarity. And the good news is you can actually see real progress relatively quickly. Maybe not mastery, but improvement.
Yes, with focused effort on the right things, learners can often notice improvements in intelligibility within weeks. Mastery takes longer, of course. It's a continuous process. But those early wins are really motivating.
And the foundation for this sculpting, you said, is phonetics, understanding the sound system.
It's non-negotiable. Without understanding the actual sounds of English, you're essentially guessing. You're flying blind.
Which brings us to tip 1, diving into phonetics with the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet.
Right. Think of the IPA as the musical score for speech. It's a universal system that writes down sounds, not just letters. This lets you see exactly how a sound is supposed to be made, regardless of confusing English spelling.
The English spelling is confusing.
Oh, notoriously so. But the IPA cuts through that. The challenge, though, is that English has a lot of distinct sounds or phonemes, around 44, depending on the dialect.
Wow, 44. How does that compare to other languages?
Well, Spanish, for instance, has about 24. Japanese has even fewer distinct sounds in some areas. So for many learners, English presents a whole range of new sounds or subtle distinctions they haven't needed before.
Okay, so where do you start with those 44 sounds? It sounds overwhelming.
You start with the sounds that are most different from your native language or the ones causing the most confusion. Often, that means focusing on the vowels first. English vowels are tricky.
How so?
Well, you've got short vowels, like in sit, long vowels, like in seat. Then you have diphthongs, which are like two vowel sounds gliding together. Think of boy, toe, or say, a. Many languages don't have such a complex vowel system.
So practically, how do you work on these?
Use online IPA charts. There are tons of free resources. Listen to the sounds, watch videos of how the mouth moves, and then practice isolating and repeating just those sounds. It's muscle memory training for your mouth.
This leads right into identifying that native language interference you mentioned, figuring out where your first language habits clash with English sounds.
Exactly. You need to know your specific challenges. For example, Arabic speakers often find the difference between PP and BB difficult. The P needs that puff of air. It's voiceless, while B is voiced. They need drills to feel and make that distinction.
Like saying pack versus back over and over.
Precisely, focusing on that initial sound. And Japanese learners, famously, often struggle to distinguish or and or. In Japanese, these sounds can be variants of the same phoneme, but in English, they change the meaning of words completely.
So what's the fix for that?
Minimal pairs. This is a really effective technique. You take pairs of words that differ by only one sound, like right and light, or collect and correct, or grass and glass.
Ah, I see. So you practice saying them one after the other.
Yes, repeatedly, focusing intensely on the mouth position, especially the tongue placement for each sound. We heard from one learner who said just 2 weeks of dedicated minimal pair practice dramatically improved their sound in work presentations. It made a real difference.
That's encouraging. And there was a practical tip for organizing this practice, something about sound maps.
Yeah, a neat little trick. You can actually draw out groups of similar sounds on paper, maybe all the front vowels together, all the back vowels, then color code the ones you find hardest.
Like highlighting your personal enemies?
Sort of. And then you commit to just 15 minutes a day, maybe, focusing only on those color-coded sounds. It makes the practice targeted and manageable, not just randomly repeating things.
Let's talk about another classic challenge. The sounds.
Yes, A and E, the bane of many learners. English has two distinct the sounds. There's the voiceless one, like in think or thumb, just air passes through.
Tongue between the teeth, no voice.
Right. And then there's the voiced one, E, like in this or mother. Same tongue position, but you add vocal cord vibration.
Feeling the vibration in your throat.
Exactly. And the practice sentence provided is great for feeling this. The thoughtful thief thought through the thick thorns.
Ooh, that's a mouthful.
It is. But saying it slowly, you have to place your tongue between your teeth for every single and you alternate between voiced, the, and voiceless, thoughtful thief, thought, thick, thorns. That physical feedback, feeling the tongue position, is invaluable for self-correction.
Okay, moving on from individual sounds. Tip 2 was about shadowing, mimicking native speakers.
Yes, shadowing is powerful. It's not just passive listening, it's active echoing. You try to repeat what you hear in real time or with a very slight delay.
What's the main goal of shadowing?
It's primarily about capturing the music of English, the intonation patterns, the rhythm, the stress, the pace, and crucially, how words connect and reduce in natural speech, like how going to becomes gonna or want to becomes wanna.
Things that make native speech sound fast and blurry sometimes.
Exactly. Shadowing helps you decode that and eventually produce it yourself. But you need a method. Don't just jump into shadowing a fast movie dialogue straight away.
Right, the tip was to start slow.
Yes, highly recommended. Use software like Audacity or language learning apps often have speed controls. Slow the audio down significantly, maybe to 0.5x speed initially.
Why so slow?
It allows your brain and mouth to actually keep up. You can properly hear and replicate those tricky connected speech links, like how an apple isn't two separate words but flows like an apple, or what is it becomes what is it. Slowing it down lets you catch and practice those connections.
And there was a tip about watching the speaker, too. Mirroring their face.
Yes, this is surprisingly effective. Don't just listen to the audio. Watch a video of the person speaking, if possible, and literally mirror their facial expressions, their mouth movements.
Why does that help?
Because producing sounds involves specific muscle movements. Your native language uses one set of muscles and movements. English often requires different ones. By mirroring, you're physically engaging the correct articulatory muscles. Are you rounding your lips enough for the uses in food? Spreading them for the uses in heed. Watching and copying helps build those motor patterns.
Makes sense. Like learning a physical skill.
It really is. There was a great anecdote about a Korean engineer. He shadowed TED Talks daily, really focusing on the speaker's delivery and expressions. His colleagues actually started asking if he'd lived abroad because his presentation delivery improved so dramatically. That was the shadowing paying off.
Which leads us perfectly into tip 3, mastering stress, rhythm, and intonation. So this is about the overall flow, right? The music of the language beyond just individual sounds.
Absolutely. And the fundamental concept here is that English is a stress-timed language. This is a huge difference from many other languages like French or Spanish, which are often syllable-timed.
Okay, what does stress-timed actually mean in practice?
It means that in English, the time between stressed syllables tends to be roughly equal, regardless of how many unstressed syllables are crammed in between. We emphasize the important words, nouns, main verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and we rush over or swallow the less important function, words like articles, prepositions, auxiliary verbs.
So it creates a kind of beat.
Exactly, a rhythm, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. If you give equal time to every single syllable, as you might in a syllable-timed language, your English can sound very flat, unnatural, maybe even robotic or hard to follow.
How can learners start to feel this beat?
A simple way is to clap it out. Take a simple phrase, a poem line, or a song lyric, like the famous Hamlet line, to be or not to be. Clap on the stressed words, clap, be, clap. Not, clap, be. Notice how to or two are quick and unstressed.
Getting a physical sense of the rhythm.
Yes. And there was that other really hands-on trick mentioned, the rubber band technique.
Ah, right. How does that work?
It's a great tactile aid. As you speak a sentence, you physically stretch the rubber band on the stressed syllables or the long vowel sounds within them. Really stretch it out. Then you let it snap back quickly for the short, unstressed syllables.
So you're feeling the contrast.
Precisely. It physically reinforces that difference between the strong, longer, stressed elements and the weak, shorter, unstressed ones. It makes the abstract concept of rhythm much more concrete and memorable.
And this stress timing directly causes those reductions we talked about with shadowing.
Yes, they're intrinsically linked. Because we rush through unstressed syllables, the vowel sounds within them often get reduced to the most neutral, minimal effort vowel sound in English, the schwa.
The sound.
Kind of, yeah. It's the sound in the A of about, or the O in condition, kia schlen. Learning to hear and produce the schwa is critical for sounding natural. If you pronounce every single vowel fully, even in unstressed words, it sounds very artificial.
So saying, what do you want to do instead of
the much more natural, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Understanding and using those reductions is key for both listening comprehension, because natives use them constantly, and for your own fluency and naturalness.
Okay, let's try applying this stress idea to a classic sentence. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Where does the stress fall there?
You'd stress the main content words. The quick brown fox jumpes over the lazy dog.
Quick brown fox jumps lazy dog.
Right. The function words, the, over, they get minimized, squeezed in between those stress beats. You can almost make it sound musical if you follow that rhythm. DA, quick brown fox jumpes over DA, lazy dog.
I can hear the beat now.
And mastering that kind of sentence stress really helps. There was an example of a Brazilian student whose sales pitches became much more persuasive once he mastered English sentence stress. He sounded more confident and clear, less hesitant and robotic. It made a tangible difference. Okay, so we've spent time sculpting the sound, the accent, the clarity. Now we shift gears to focus on fluency, increasing the flow, the speed, the ease of getting your thoughts out.
Turning knowledge into action, essentially.
Exactly. It's about taking all that vocabulary and grammar you've learned and making it instinctive, automatic, reducing those pauses, those hesitations, so you can communicate more effortlessly.
And the foundation for fluency has to be vocabulary, right? You need the words.
Right.
So tip 4, vocabulary expansion. But crucially, not just memorizing lists.
Absolutely critical point. Rote memorization of isolated words is really inefficient for speaking fluency. The material suggested that a vocabulary of around 5,000 active, usable words is a good target for strong conversational ability.
5,000 active words. That sounds like a lot.
Huh.
How do you build that effectively?
Through contextual learning. This is key. When you find a new word in an article, a podcast, a conversation, don't just look up the definition. Write down the entire sentence you found it in.
Why the whole sentence?
Because it teaches you not just the meaning, but how the word is used, its typical partners, collocations, the grammar around it. It sticks much better than just a word and its definition.
And the idea of thematic learning helps too, grouping words by topic.
Yeah, that's a really smart strategy. Dedicate, say, a week to a specific theme, maybe technology. Learn related words like algorithm, interface, bandwidth, cybersecurity together, or travel, learn itinerary, layover, customs, boarding pass. You build useful clusters of language you can actually use in conversations about those topics.
Instead of just random words floating around.
Precisely. And for those really stubborn words that just won't stick in your active memory, mnemonics can be surprisingly helpful.
Memory tricks.
Yeah, like the example given for ubiquitous, which means found everywhere. The mnemonic was to link it to a funny phrase like, ubiquitous at a party, imagining a party so popular that everyone is there. It's ubiquitous.
That's memorable.
It is. These quirky mental hooks can really help pull a word from your passive understanding into your active speaking vocabulary when you actually need it on the spot.
Okay, words are the fuel. Tip 5 is about grammar mastery, the glue that holds it all together. But again, it's about moving beyond just knowing the rules.
Exactly. Most intermediate learners know what the present perfect is or how to form a conditional sentence. The challenge is deploying it automatically, correctly, while speaking.
So how do you make that leap from intellectual knowledge to instinct?
Through active use and immersion. You have to force yourself to use the structures. Write emails deliberately using passive voice if that's your weak spot. Keep a journal where you practice talking about past events using different past tenses. And most importantly, speak using these structures.
Talk to yourself.
Yes. Narrate your day using complex sentences, role-play conversations. Create situations where your brain must retrieve and use that tricky grammar point under a bit of pressure. That's how it becomes automatic.
And the idea of an error journal seems really useful here.
It's a fantastic targeted strategy. Don't just get frustrated by mistakes. Track them. Notice which errors you make repeatedly. Maybe you always forget the S on third-person singular verbs, or you mix up if clauses.
So you identify your patterns.
Right. Then you dedicate specific practice time only to fixing those recurring errors. Maybe you do drills just on that one grammar point for a few days. It's much more efficient than trying to fix everything at once.
Very focused.
Extremely. And there was a specific example for practicing complex structures, like the third conditional for regrets. If I had known, I would have.
If I had studied harder, I would have passed. that kind of thing.
Exactly. The exercise was to take that structure and apply it to lots of different imaginary scenarios, saying it out loud. If I hadn't missed the bus, I wouldn't have been late. If she had asked me, I would have helped. Practicing it repeatedly in different contexts helps burn the pattern into your brain. This helped one student immensely in making their storytelling coherent.
Which brings us neatly to tip 6. Daily speaking practice and media immersion. This feels like the bedrock connecting everything.
It really is. You simply cannot improve speaking without speaking. Practice makes permanent, as they say, and structured output practice is vital.
What kind of structured practice works well?
Start simple with solo talks. Just narrate your day out loud. Okay, now I'm making coffee. I need to add milk. It sounds basic, but it gets you producing language constantly.
Overcoming the silence barrier.
Precisely. Then up the challenge. The timed topic. Set a timer for, say, 1 minute. Pick a random topic. Climate change, my favorite hobby. Pros and cons of social media. And force yourself to talk about it continuously for that full minute.
Without stopping, even if you stumble.
Yes. The goal isn't perfection, it's sustained output. Pushing through the hesitation, it trains your brain to keep going, to find alternative ways to express things if you get stuck on one word. We saw that Reddit user who credited just 15 minutes of this daily focused speaking for reaching conversational fluency.
That's powerful. And the other side of the coin is immersion the input.
Absolutely. You need constant exposure to authentic English. And you need to push your comfort zone here. The big challenge, try watching movies or shows without subtitles.
Ooh, scary for many learners.
It is initially, but it forces your brain to rely solely on listening comprehension and context clues. You might miss things at first, but your listening skills will sharpen dramatically over time.
And then you need to make that input active, right? Not just passive watching.
Yes. Try dubbing scenes, mute the sound, and trying to speak the lines along with the actors, matching their timing and intonation. Or, after watching an episode of a show, immediately try to summarize the plot out loud. What happened? Who said what?
Reinforcing what you just heard.
Exactly. Using something popular and dialogue-heavy like the show Friends, for instance, is great for this. You can absorb common idioms, slang, and conversational patterns, and then practice recounting them yourself. It bridges that gap between textbook English and how people actually talk.
Okay, so we've talked accent work, we've talked fluency work. Now, how do we actually bring these together effectively? Because you need both working in harmony.
That's the key, synergy. It's no good having perfect pronunciation if you can't string a sentence together. And it's not great being fluent if nobody can understand you clearly. They have to develop together.
But before we get into the advanced stuff, we absolutely have to talk about the mental game, mindset and confidence, because fear seems to be the biggest blocker for so many learners.
It truly is. That fear of making a mistake, of sounding stupid, of being judged, it creates so much anxiety. And physiologically, when you're anxious, your brain isn't focused on language retrieval, it's focused on the perceived threat. That leads directly to freezing up, stammering those and ums.
So what can people do about that fear psychologically?
Well, simple affirmations can actually help reprogram your thinking over time. Consistently telling yourself things like, mistakes are learning opportunities, it's okay not to be perfect, my goal is communication, not perfection.
Positive self-talk.
Yes, but passive thoughts aren't always enough. Active intervention is often needed. Exposure therapy, essentially. Putting yourself in low-stakes speaking situations repeatedly.
Joining a club.
Exactly. The material mentioned Toastmasters specifically. Joining a public speaking club, even if it seems terrifying at first, forces you to practice speaking in front of others in a supportive environment. It normalizes the anxiety, builds poise. Many shy speakers found their voice this way.
And visualization, does that really work?
It can be surprisingly powerful. Take a few minutes each day, close your eyes, and vividly imagine yourself having a successful English conversation. Picture yourself speaking clearly, fluently. Imagine the other person understanding you, smiling, responding positively.
Like a mental rehearsal.
Precisely. It primes your brain for success, makes the possibility feel more real, and can genuinely reduce anxiety when the real situation arrives.
Okay, mindset addressed. How do we practice accent and fluency together in a holistic way?
Conversation simulations and role-playing are excellent for this. Use language exchange apps like Tandem or HelloTalk for real chats, or practice with a friend or tutor. Set yourself specific tasks.
Like what kind of tasks?
Maybe try debating a topic like the future of AI, or role-play a job interview or negotiating a price for something. These scenarios force you to think on your feet, fluency, while also needing to be clear and persuasive, accent intelligibility. You have to manage both simultaneously.
And making this a regular habit is key. The habit stacking idea.
Yes, that's a great productivity hack applied to language learning. Link your practice to something you already do every day without fail.
Like brushing your teeth or making coffee.
Exactly. Maybe you do 15 minutes of phonetic drills, accent work while your coffee brews in the morning, and then you do 15 minutes of timed speaking practice, fluency work, on your commute home. You stack the new habit onto an existing one.
So it becomes automatic.
Right. That consistent daily 30 minutes, 15 on accent, 15 on fluency, is far more effective in the long run than trying to cram hours into one weekend session when you feel motivated. Consistency beats intensity.
Good advice. Now, what about common mistakes? Pitfalls to avoid?
There are a few big ones that learners often fall into, even with good intentions.
Okay, number one.
Over-focusing on perfection. Waiting until you think your accent is flawless or your grammar is perfect before you dare to speak. This leads to silence. Aim for clarity and communication, not unattainable perfection. Just get the message across.
Makes sense. Pitfall number two.
Neglecting listening. Thinking that speaking practice alone is enough. It's not. Your output is fueled entirely by your input. You need to constantly listen to good quality, natural English to keep your own patterns fresh and accurate. If you stop listening, your speaking will eventually stagnate.
Input feeds output. Got it. And the third mistake.
Inconsistency. This is perhaps the biggest killer of progress. Those sporadic, heroic, multi-hour study sessions are just not as effective neurologically as short, focused daily practice. Your brain learns best through regular, repeated exposure. 30 minutes every day trumps 4 hours once a week.
Daily effort wins. Okay, so for learners who are already quite advanced, maybe conversationally fluent, but want to reach that next level of polish, what are the advanced strategies?
For really fine-tuning rhythm and flow, prosody training using poetry can be very effective.
Poetry. Why poetry?
Because poetry often has a very deliberate, heightened rhythm and stress pattern. Reciting it forces you to pay incredibly close attention to intonation, pauses, linking sounds, the musicality we talked about. It pushes you beyond basic sentence rhythm into more nuanced delivery. Think about reciting Shakespeare, for instance.
That definitely requires vocal control. What else?
Dialect exploration. This isn't about changing your accent fundamentally, but about understanding regional variations, learning to recognize and maybe even occasionally reproduce features of, say, a Scottish accent versus an Australian one.
How does that help your own speech?
It deepens your overall linguistic awareness and flexibility. It makes you a better listener to a wider range of speakers, and it gives you a richer understanding of the language's diversity. It adds another layer of sophistication.
Interesting. And the ultimate challenge.
Preparing and delivering public presentations. Something like a TED-style talk. This forces you to structure complex ideas, choose precise language, and deliver it with maximum clarity, confidence, and maybe even emotional resonance. It's the ultimate test of integrating accent, fluency, vocabulary, grammar, and delivery skills. Okay, we've laid out all the techniques, the theories, the roadmap. But sometimes what really makes it click is hearing about real people who've gone through this journey. These stories provide that emotional connection, showing that the struggles are normal and the breakthroughs are possible.
They make it feel achievable. Let's start with Robbie Kukers. His story begins back in 2004, arriving in Dublin from Latvia.
Right. He landed with very basic English and barely any money, just 50 euros apparently. He managed to get a job quickly, but it was in a noisy warehouse environment.
Tough place to practice English.
Incredibly tough. He described how the fast, thick Irish accents of his coworkers just sounded like noise to him. He couldn't follow conversations, felt totally lost, and his heart would pound with embarrassment whenever he had to try and speak.
That feeling of isolation must have been intense.
It was. And it had real consequences, he mentioned, missing out on potential promotions simply because of miscommunications, because people couldn't easily understand him or he couldn't understand them.
So what did he do initially? The usual route.
Yeah, for the first few years, he did what many learners do, hit the books hard. Dictionaries, grammar exercises, trying to memorize rules in isolation.
But it didn't quite translate to speaking.
Apparently not enough. The real turning point came about 5 years in when he got a job in a call center. He had this epiphany. Books aren't enough. I need real English, the way people actually speak.
So he changed his approach.
Completely. He started actively shadowing TV soap operas, mimicking the dialogue. And he'd stay late after work, meticulously practicing the customer service scripts over and over again in his empty apartment, focusing on the flow and pronunciation.
Active contextual practice.
Exactly. And the breakthrough moment, the proof it was working, came when an important client specifically complimented him on his clear voice during a call. That was huge for him. He realized that shifting from passive book learning to active contactual practice was what finally unlocked his progress. His big lesson: prioritize context and application.
Powerful story. Next up, Luca Lamparello, who's now famous as a polyglot, speaking, 14 languages? But he struggled with English initially.
Oh, absolutely. He's very open about his early struggles. He talks about school English in Italy being incredibly boring, rote learning, totally ineffective for him.
How did that manifest?
He describes stammering in class, his face going red with embarrassment when he tried to speak even simple sentences. Watching English movies was just confusing noise back then. He couldn't follow them at all.
So what was his turning point? How did he break through that barrier?
For him, it was reading, but not textbooks, voluntary, immersive reading for pleasure. He started with English comics, things he found genuinely engaging. Then he graduated to novels.
Finding material he actually enjoyed.
Yes. He said that because he was emotionally invested in the stories and characters, the new vocabulary and sentence structures just started sticking like glue in a way they never had from textbooks.
Interesting. So input through reading was key for him. And the speaking part.
That came later, during a student exchange trip to the US. Initially, he said, he froze up again. The speed of native speech, the slang, the different accents, it was overwhelming.
Back to that familiar fear.
Right. But this time, he made a conscious decision to push through it. He forced himself to talk to people, to ask questions constantly. What does that mean? Could you say that again? Even when it felt awkward.
Embracing the discomfort.
Exactly. And gradually, through that sustained effort and immersion, things shifted. He vividly remembers a moment months later just casually bantering with American friends over burgers and realizing he was doing it effortlessly. The fear was gone, the fluency was there. His lesson: combine immersion with fearlessness.
Great takeaway. And then there's Maria's story, which started even earlier in childhood.
Yes, a lovely anecdote. As a little girl in Portugal, she used to stand in front of the mirror and just babble in what she imagined was English, pretending to be a star. That early desire was there.
But the reality of learning was harder.
Oh, yes. She talks about being incredibly shy during her teenage years, with a tutor even hiding under the table at one point. And family trips to England were motivating, but also sometimes painful. She remembers the sting of kind corrections from locals when she made mistakes.
That sting became motivation, though.
It did. It fueled her determination. As an adult, she became relentless in her immersion. She apparently read over 1,000 books in English, listened constantly to podcasts on her commute, actively sought out challenging English media. It became part of her life.
A true lifestyle integration.
Completely. And her big arrival moment, the culmination of all that effort, came when she found herself leading an important executive seminar in Edinburgh, Scotland. She realized her voice was steady, her English was clear and professional, and she was commanding the room. It was this incredibly emotional moment of realizing how far she'd come from that little girl babbling at the mirror to this confident professional. Her mantra became, integrate the language into your actual life.
Wow. 3 very different journeys, but similar themes of persistence and active use. And we should also mention the Reddit warriors. People proving it's possible even starting later.
Yes, those examples are so important because they counter the myth that you have to start young. People like Alicia, Adnary, Paco sharing their stories online about achieving fluency as adults.
Tell us about Paco. His story is amazing.
It really is. He started learning English at age 60, apparently knowing only about 3 words. This was during the COVID lockdown. He decided to just go for it.
Starting from scratch at 60. That takes courage.
Absolutely. He embraced online language exchanges, immersed himself in reading, and just practiced consistently. And the result: within 4 years, he achieved genuine conversational fluency. It's incredible proof that age is truly not a barrier if the motivation and the right methods are there.
And Diana's story about overcoming fear.
Yes. Diana's struggle was very much about performance anxiety. She used to rely heavily on captions during work Zoom calls, terrified of speaking up and making mistakes. It was paralyzing her professionally.
Many people can relate to that.
For sure.
Yeah.
But after focusing on fluency techniques and confidence-building strategies, she made a breakthrough. She started speaking freely in meetings, participating actively, her confidence soared, and the tangible result. She started getting job offers directly because her communication skills had improved so dramatically.
That's a concrete outcome.
It really is. All these stories, from Robbie in the warehouse, to Luca the polyglot, Maria the executive, Paco starting at 60, Diana conquering her fear, they all underline the same core message. The struggles, the embarrassment, the long hours, they're not signs of failure. They are the necessary ingredients in the process of forging real linguistic empowerment. #CAG UTRO.
Well, that was an incredibly detailed journey we just took. We've covered so much ground, from the real technical side of things like IPA phonetics and shadowing for accent clarity,
The sculpting part.
all the way to strategies for boosting fluency, like contextual vocabulary learning, active grammar use, error journaling, and that crucial mindset piece. It really feels like a complete roadmap.
And hopefully hearing those stories hammers home the point. Every single person we talked about, Robbie, Luca, Maria, they all felt that knot in their stomach, that frustration, but they pushed through.
They proved it's possible.
Absolutely. Their success shows that if you stick with consistent active practice, focusing on targeted output, rhythm, clarity, and just building confidence, you will have your own breakthroughs. The goal is reachable. A world where English genuinely empowers you, helps you connect, helps you achieve your goals.
So the final thought for everyone listening.
Yeah.
What does this mean for you right now?
Yeah.
We want to leave you with a challenge, going back to that sculpting idea.
Yeah. Ask yourself, which specific language muscle are you going to focus on sculpting starting today? Is it the technical phonetic work for better clarity? Or is it the vocabulary and grammar practice for smoother flow?
Pick one area to begin with.
Maybe. Or dedicate time to both. But the key is to start. Start small if you need to, maybe just 10 or 15 minutes a day, but commit to it. Start now.
Don't wait for the perfect moment.
There's no perfect moment. Just start sculpting.
Fantastic advice. And if you found this deep dive helpful, if it gave you some actionable ideas, please do support the channel.
Yes, please do.
Like this video, share it with other learners who might benefit, and definitely subscribe to this YouTube channel for more deep dives and practical language learning strategies.
We appreciate your support.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next deep dive.